Hey everyone. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I never thought I'd be the one posting here, but here I am. I'm a 36-year-old guy, married to my wife, 28F, for a little over 5 years. We met when she was in college and I was already settled in my career. Back then, she was magnetic, funny, spontaneous, and she made me feel alive in ways I didn't even know I was missing. From the outside, we've always looked like that couple. The ones people say, "Oh wow, you two are perfect together," about at parties. But if I'm honest, there were cracks early on, little things I ignored because I wanted to believe in us. She had a tendency to twist things when she didn't want to be blamed. If she forgot to pay a bill, somehow it became my fault for not reminding her. If she flirted with a guy at a bar, she'd laugh it off and tell me I was too sensitive or reading too much into it. I brushed all of that under the rug because I thought everyone has their flaws, right? And when things were good, they were really good. We bought a small house, adopted a dog, and started talking, lightly, about kids. But about 6 months ago, I started feeling like something in her shifted. And at first, I told myself I was imagining it. That's where all of this really began. About 6 months ago, like I said, things started to feel off. At first, it was subtle. She started guarding her phone in a way she never had before. Normally, her phone would be lying around, screen up, notifications popping in. Suddenly, she was keeping it face down or carrying it with her even when she went to the bathroom. I told myself, maybe she's just being more careful with her privacy, but then there were other things. She started working late more often, even though her job hadn't changed. She'd come home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. And the biggest red flag? She'd go from being distant and distracted one week to oddly affectionate the next, almost performatively affectionate, like she was overcompensating. One night, she claimed she was going out with some coworkers for drinks after a team-building thing. Normally, I wouldn't have cared, but something in my gut was screaming at me. I decided not to confront her right away. Instead, I just waited. When she came home that night, she was overly cheerful, a little tipsy, and went straight to the shower. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it. I swear I wasn't looking to snoop, but the screen lit up with a preview of a message. "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." It wasn't from anyone in her contacts, just a random number. My heart dropped into my stomach. I felt like someone had just sucker-punched me in the ribs. I didn't open the message right then. I just stood there, staring at the phone like it was some venomous thing. My hands were shaking. I knew that if I dug deeper, my life might never be the same again, but I also knew I couldn't ignore it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to her, listening to her steady breathing while my mind replayed that message over and over. By morning, I'd gone through every possible excuse in my head. Maybe it was a prank, maybe a wrong number, maybe anything but what I already knew deep down. When she woke up, she rolled over, kissed my shoulder like nothing was wrong, and started scrolling on her phone. I watched her face carefully. No flicker of guilt. That actually made me angrier somehow. I said, as calmly as I could, "Who's been texting you late at night?" She froze for half a second, just a flicker, and then tilted her head like she was confused. "What are you talking about?" I told her I'd seen the message. I even quoted it. That's when the performance began. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God, that? Babe, that's just Stacy from work joking around. You know how she is, she's such a flirt, even with the girls." I stared at her. It said her last night was incredible. Without missing a beat, she laughed. "Oh my God, you're so paranoid. We went out, got drunk, and she's being dramatic. You're reading way too much into it." But my gut wouldn't let it go. I said, "Let me see the messages." And here's where the twisting really started. She said, "Wow, I can't believe you don't trust me. After everything we've been through, you're gonna invade my privacy like that." I asked again. She refused. She started crying, full-on tears, and said I was controlling, that I was suffocating her, that I'd always been jealous and this was why she couldn't even have friends. It was like watching someone flip through a Rolodex of manipulations, one after another, trying to find the one that would shut me up. But something in me had already shifted. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just said, quietly, I'm going to find out the truth. After that confrontation, I felt like I was living in two different realities at once. Outwardly, I kept going to work, walking the dog, doing the normal day-to-day things. But inside, I was spinning. It's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't been through it. It's not just heartbreak, it's this deep, nauseating confusion, like the person you thought you knew is suddenly a stranger wearing your wife's face. I replayed every moment of our relationship in my head. Every late night she'd spent with friends. Every time she'd gaslit me into believing I was overreacting. Even things from years ago started to feel suspicious. And here's the thing that messed me up the most, part of me still loved her. Even after reading that message, even after seeing her lie straight to my face with tears on demand, I caught myself hoping that she was telling the truth. At night, lying next to her, I'd stare at the ceiling with this tightness in my chest, a mix of anger and grief. Anger because how could she do this to me after everything? Grief because the woman I thought I'd married might not even exist. I didn't eat much. I lost weight without even trying. My friends started asking if I was okay, and I just told them work was stressful. It's amazing how easily you can hide devastation if you need to. But in the middle of all that chaos, something in me hardened. I wasn't going to let her keep spinning me in circles. If she wouldn't give me the truth, I'd find it myself. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll send you part 5, Digging Deeper. Part 5 15th, Digging Deeper, following the threads. After that confrontation, I became methodical. I've never been the snooping type, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more, so much more, hiding under the surface. First, I checked our phone bill. I'd never done that before. Right there, plain as day, was a string of late-night calls to a number I didn't recognize. Hours spent on the phone when she'd told me she was working late. I plugged that number into a reverse lookup site. The name that popped up was male. Let's call him Ryan. A guy I'd never heard of. Next, I checked our joint bank account. Suddenly there were little charges from places she'd never mentioned, restaurants we'd never gone to together, hotel bars in parts of town she had no reason to be in. One even lined up perfectly with a work retreat she'd told me about months ago. The kicker? I started noticing how careful she was with her stories. She'd mention a coworker named Amy one week, and the next week it was Anna, but the details didn't match. She once claimed she stayed late because of inventory, but when I casually asked what they were counting, she changed the subject so fast it gave me whiplash. I dug deeper. I borrowed her laptop under the pretense of needing it for a Zoom call. In her email drafts, yes, drafts, I found unsent messages that made my blood run cold. They weren't addressed to Ryan, but to someone else entirely. A guy named Elliot, saying things like, I can't stop thinking about our weekend. I hate lying to him, but I can't stay away from you. That was the moment I realized Ryan wasn't the only one. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the laptop. I sat there staring at those words, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't cry. I didn't even feel surprised. I just felt hollow. I waited 2 days before saying anything. 2 days of pretending to be normal, 2 days of watching her move around the house like nothing was wrong while my chest felt like it had a lead weight strapped to it. On the third night, after dinner, I asked her to sit down. She gave me that wide-eyed "What's up, babe?" smile that used to melt me. Now it just felt like a knife. I put my phone on the table and slid it toward her. On the screen were screenshots of the email drafts. I didn't say a word. Just watched her face. First came confusion. Then a quick flash of panic. And then, like clockwork, she went into character. Oh my God, you're spying on me now? This is insane, you're acting crazy. I cut her off. Who is Elliot? Her mouth opened, closed. She blinked fast, like she was rebooting. Then came the lies. That's not what it looks like, it's just a fantasy thing, we never even met. You've been so distant lately, I just needed someone to talk to. You're overreacting. You always do this. I felt my hands clenching into fists on my knees. I found the phone records. Ryan. Elliot. How many others? She actually laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Wow. You've been busy playing detective, huh? Maybe if you put that much energy into our marriage, I wouldn't need to look elsewhere. That was it. That was the moment the mask truly slipped. She wasn't even pretending to be sorry. She was attacking me, trying to make me feel like I drove her to it. I remember just staring at her, feeling the last threads of hope snap inside me. This wasn't someone who'd made a mistake. This was someone who knew exactly what she was doing, and was willing to twist the knife to keep control. After that second confrontation, I didn't get answers, just more questions. She stormed out that night, saying she needed space. I didn't stop her. I sat there in the quiet house, staring at the half-empty wineglass she'd left behind, feeling like the floor was tilting under me. I couldn't sleep, so I kept digging. I went through old credit card statements, old social media posts, anything that might make sense of this nightmare. That's when I found another twist. A few months back, she'd taken a girls' weekend at a lake house. She'd sent me photos, smiling selfies with two of her friends, drinks in hand. But as I scrolled through her private Instagram, which I'd never bothered looking at before, I noticed something odd. In the reflection of her sunglasses in one of those pictures, you could clearly see the outline of a man's arm draped over her shoulder. None of the friends she'd tagged were male. It hit me like a ton of bricks, she'd been staging alibis. The more I looked, the more cracks I saw. Photos supposedly taken at work lunches that had timestamps conflicting with her calendar. A hotel receipt tucked in with our tax documents from a night I knew she was supposed to have been with her sister. And here's the kicker, the next day, she came back home like nothing happened. She brought coffee. She hugged me from behind while I was making eggs. Like she hadn't detonated my entire world just 12 hours earlier. When I pulled away, she tilted her head and said, "What's wrong? You're acting weird." I almost laughed. I almost told her everything I knew. But instead, I lied. I smiled. I told her I was just tired. Because now, I needed to see how far down this rabbit hole went. A few days later, while I was still playing dumb at home, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey. I don't know if you know me, but I think we need to talk about wife's name." At first, I thought it was some sick joke. But the number belonged to one of her co-workers, a woman I'd met once at a company Christmas party. Let's call her Lena. I called her immediately. My hands were sweating so much I almost dropped the phone. Lena sounded nervous but determined. She said, "I can't watch her do this to you anymore." It turns out Lena had seen my wife sneaking around with Ryan. She'd covered for her once or twice, thinking it was just a harmless fling, but then she overheard something that made her feel sick, my wife bragging at work about how easy it was to manage two guys at once. "Two?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Yeah. Ryan and some guy named Elliot," Lena said, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to get involved, but she laughed about you. Said you'd never find out because you're too trusting." I went silent. I didn't trust my voice not to break. Lena kept talking, like she'd been holding this in for months. She told me about late-night calls my wife took at work, about a weekend she'd worked overtime but actually drove 2 hours out of town with Ryan. She even sent me a photo she'd taken at a bar one night, my wife, in his lap, kissing him like they'd been together for years. Seeing that picture was like being punched in the gut, but at the same time, it was clarifying. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I thanked Lena, probably a dozen times. She apologized, said she didn't know how I'd want to handle it, but she couldn't stay quiet anymore. I hung up and just sat there, staring at the photo she'd sent. And then, for the first time in weeks, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally knew the truth. That photo from Lena changed everything for me. Up until then, I'd been flailing, angry, heartbroken, second-guessing my own reality. But now I had proof, and proof is power. I didn't confront my wife right away. That was the first instinct, sure, or shove the phone in her face and scream, "Explain this." But something in me wanted to do more than just react. I wanted to protect myself, and if I was honest, I wanted her lies to collapse in on themselves. So I started planning. Quietly. First, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell them the whole saga, just enough to get advice. They told me to start making copies of everything, bank statements, phone records, that photo, those emails. So I did. I made a hidden folder on a thumb drive and stored duplicates in cloud storage under a fake account. Next, I started acting normal. Overly normal. I complimented her cooking. I asked about her day. I even suggested a date night, which she seemed thrilled about. That hurt more than I expected, knowing she could smile at me like that while juggling 2 other men, but I kept the mask on. And then something unexpected happened. While I was pretending to be the clueless husband, she started slipping up more. One night she left her phone on the couch and went upstairs to shower. A notification popped up from Ryan. "Same hotel Friday? Can't stop thinking about your skin on mine." My hands actually trembled as I screenshotted it. Then, later that week, I checked our shared calendar. She'd blocked off Friday as a spa day with Mom. Cute. I didn't cancel anything. I didn't confront her. Instead, I booked a day off work. Because if she was going to keep underestimating me, I was going to use that. Friday came, and I don't think I've ever felt so wired in my life. My heart was pounding before I even left the house. I kissed her goodbye like usual, told her to enjoy the spa day with Mom, and watched her drive off in that little silver car we bought together 3 years ago. Then I followed. I kept my distance, 2 or 3 cars back. I half expected her to actually head toward her mom's neighborhood, and part of me even hoped she would, that maybe this whole thing was some terrible misunderstanding. But no. She didn't head east toward her mom's. She got on the freeway heading north. 45 minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of a mid-range hotel just off the interstate. I parked far enough away not to be noticed. My palms were slick with sweat, and I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. I watched as she stepped out of the car in a sundress I'd never seen before, hair done up like she was on a date. Then Ryan appeared. I recognized him from Lena's description, tall, broad-shouldered, with a smugness in his posture that made my skin crawl. He opened his arms, and she ran into them. They kissed right there in the parking lot like they hadn't a care in the world. I filmed it. My hands were shaking so badly that the footage is a little jittery, but it's clear enough, her face, his arms, that kiss. And then, this is the part that still makes me nauseous, Elliot pulled up in a truck not even 5 minutes later. My jaw literally dropped. I watched her break away from Ryan, straighten her dress, and walk right over to Elliot like nothing happened. They didn't kiss, but she touched his chest and laughed at something he said, then handed him a hotel keycard. I sat there in my car for what felt like forever, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't storm over. I didn't make a scene. I just kept recording, every second of it, until they all disappeared inside. That was it. That was the moment something inside me broke for good. Driving home that day felt surreal. I kept replaying what I'd seen in the parking lot like a movie on a loop, her in that dress, the way she melted into Ryan's arms, then the casual handoff to Elliot like it was all part of some schedule. I sat in the driveway for almost an hour before going inside. The house suddenly felt alien, like I was walking through a stranger's life. Her shoes by the door, our wedding photos on the wall, it all felt fake now, like props in some twisted play. That night, she came home all smiles, carrying a little gift bag. "Spa day was amazing," she said, kissing my cheek. Got you something. Inside was a bottle of cologne. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You deserve nice things, babe." I don't know how I didn't snap right there. Instead, I thanked her, smiled, and excused myself to the bathroom. I locked the door and sat on the floor, staring at that bottle of cologne, my hand shaking so badly I dropped it. And I cried. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet, gut-wrenching sobs. For everything we'd built that wasn't real. For the years I believed in someone who didn't exist. For the way she could look at me, lie to me, and gift-wrap the betrayal like it was nothing. Something hardened in me that night. I looked in the mirror, eyes red, and said out loud, "I'm done." It wasn't anger anymore, it was clarity. The woman I loved didn't exist, and the one standing in my kitchen was a stranger who thought she could rewrite reality with enough lies. I didn't confront her then. I didn't give her the satisfaction of another argument to twist. I just started preparing for the end. After that night in the bathroom, my mindset shifted completely. I stopped trying to save anything. Instead, I started protecting myself. The next week was all about quiet moves. I opened a separate bank account she didn't know about and began moving small amounts of money over. Just enough that it wouldn't trigger suspicion, but enough that I'd be safe when the fallout hit. I met with my lawyer again, this time with everything I'd collected. Screenshots of texts. The hotel parking lot video. Copies of those emails to Elliot. The testimony Lena had offered to put in writing. The lawyer looked at me and said, "You've got everything you need. Do you want to go through mediation, or do you want to go nuclear?" I didn't even hesitate. Nuclear. At home, I kept my performance going. I cooked dinner, I laughed at her dumb jokes, I listened to her talk about her day. Meanwhile, I was also recording conversations, legally, in my state, where she told me she loved me, where she lied about her whereabouts, where she swore she'd never hurt me. My lawyer said those would help paint the picture of deceit if things got ugly. Then, the perfect opportunity came. She announced she'd be staying with her sister for the weekend because they were doing a girls' wine tour. I smiled and said, "Have fun, babe." Inside, my heart was pounding, not with nerves, but with a dark sort of resolve. Because that weekend, while she thought she was off juggling Ryan and Elliot, I would be meeting with a locksmith, changing locks, and preparing the papers. The morning she left for her so-called wine tour, she kissed me goodbye, tossed her overnight bag in the trunk, and chirped, "Don't miss me too much." I watched her drive away with this eerie calm. I wasn't sad anymore. Just focused. As soon as she was out of sight, I got to work. First stop, the locksmith. By noon, every lock on the house was changed. Second stop, the bank, to finalize moving my direct deposits and secure my new account. Third, a meeting with my lawyer to sign the divorce papers we'd been preparing in secret. That evening, I sat in the house, my house now, with a strange quiet settling over me. I took down some of the wedding photos, packed them in a box. Every photo of us together felt like a lie, and I couldn't stand to look at them. The next day, while she was still gone, I called her parents. They live out of state and have always been polite but distant with me. I told them plainly, I've filed for divorce. I have proof of multiple affairs. I wanted you to hear it from me before she spins it. There was a long silence on the line. Then her mom sighed and said something that stunned me. "I'm sorry. We warned her this would catch up with her." It turns out, she'd cheated in past relationships too. Her parents knew she had a pattern, but they thought marriage would settle her down. By Sunday night, I'd moved some essentials to a friend's place, just in case. I didn't know how she'd react once she realized the locks were changed and the papers were served. When she came back late Sunday evening, I was sitting in the driveway waiting. The look on her face when her key didn't work was something I'll never forget. She banged on the door, yelling, "What the hell is going on?" I stepped out of my car, papers in hand, and said quietly, "It's over. And I have everything." Her face went pale. She started with the waterworks, then the screaming, then the bargaining, cycling through every manipulation tactic in the book. But I didn't budge. I hadn't. After that night in the driveway, things moved fast. She left, still sobbing and shouting that I'd blindsided her, still trying to spin it like I was the villain. But I had already made sure the papers were filed and the evidence was solid. The next week was a blur of logistics, cancelling joint credit cards, freezing shared accounts, talking to the lawyer about selling the house. She tried texting me non-stop at first. "We can fix this, please." I didn't mean it. "You're the only one I love. You're overreacting. Everyone makes mistakes. And finally, you'll regret this. You'll never find someone who loves you like I do." I didn't reply. Not once. My lawyer advised me to keep all communication written and minimal, so that's what I did. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Ryan texted me. Somehow, he found my number. His message was short. "I didn't know she was married. I'm sorry." I didn't respond to him either. It didn't matter anymore. Elliot, though? He did know. Lena confirmed it later. He'd apparently known from the start and didn't care. That stung in a weird way, but again, not my circus, not my monkeys. Within a month, she'd moved in with some friend, maybe one of them, who knows. I stayed in the house for a while, then decided I wanted a fresh start and moved closer to my brother. I signed the sale papers with my hand steady and my heart surprisingly light. The resolution was messy, expensive, and exhausting, but it was also freeing. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. It's been a few months since the divorce was finalized, and honestly, I feel like I'm finally breathing again. The first few weeks after she left, I kept expecting to feel some huge wave of regret or loneliness. But it never came. Instead, what I felt was clarity. Looking back, I can see all the little warning signs I brushed aside because I didn't want to believe she was capable of that level of deceit. That's what hurts the most, not just the cheating, but the years of lies that made me doubt my own instincts. Here's what I've learned, and what I want to tell anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let someone gaslight you into doubting reality. Manipulative people are masters at twisting things until you feel like the crazy one. Protect yourself quietly. Get your ducks in a row, financially, legally, emotionally, before you make your move. Don't expect closure from someone who thrives on lying. They won't give it to you. You have to give it to yourself. You will survive this. It might feel like your world is ending, but I promise, it's just the end of a chapter you deserve to close. If you're reading this and you're in the gut-wrenching place I was in months ago, please hear me, you are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are absolutely capable of building a better life without someone who thrives on betrayal. Thanks for reading this saga. Writing it all out has been weirdly therapeutic. If you're in a similar spot, feel free to reach out. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but you're not alone. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new stories.